Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley. Thanks for joining me today. I am thrilled to be able to present to you in this month's edition of the newsletter a brand new mini stamp set designed by Julie Ebersole. This is the Over It stamp set and it is a free gift with purchase. I will have all the details about that over on the coordinating blog post, so be sure to check that out. Here is a look at this adorable stamp set. It's got kind of this whimsical rainbow image, a few little sprinkle images, and some adorable coordinating sentiments as well. Now, when I saw this stamp set, I thought this was the perfect opportunity to make a set of mini cards. And I'm going to be making 4-bar cards, which aren't really common here in the States. They are more common for our friends across the pond. So it may not be kind of a foreign idea for them, but it is a smaller size than what we're used to. It is 3.5 by 4 7/8. That is the finished card base size. So you can see here, I am cutting my paper to 3.5 by 9 3/4, and I'm scoring this at 4 7/8 to make my finished card base here. Now here it is in comparison to the standard A2 size card, which measures 4 1/4 by 5.5. So you can see it's considerably smaller. It's a fun size, and it will fit in an A2 size envelope if you wanted to use that. Now for the mats on these, I'm actually going to be using the Lawn Fawn small stitched rectangle. It is the second to the largest, and I've gone ahead and cut a bunch of those out of some Essentials by Ellen linen cardstock. And I'm starting out with my rainbow image here. I'm going to be doing some embossing on these card fronts. So I've prepped the surface with my powder tool, and now I'm inking this rainbow image up with some VersaFine Onyx Black pigment ink. I'm going to be doing some clear embossing over this one. And then I'll clean off my rainbow image here, and I'll ink it up with some Versamark ink and stamp that onto my card front as well. Once again, these card fronts I've cut using that Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die. Now, I don't know if you noticed when I put this on my Misty, I actually kind of stretched that rainbow out just a little bit so it's not that perfect arc. And I'm bringing it to where it kind of stamps off the side of my card front just to give it a little bit different look. And now I'm sprinkling on my embossing powders onto these images. I use the Brutus Monroe Gilded Embossing Powder for the gold embossing powder, and just some Wow clear embossing powder over that black ink. And then I went ahead and heat set those. Now the first way I'm going to color some of these rainbows is with some distress inks. I have the Picked Raspberry, Carved Pumpkin, Squeezed Lemonade, Twisted Citron, Mermaid Lagoon, and Wilted Violet, and I'm just pressing those onto my Tonic Easy Clean mat. And I'm taking an aqua brush here, and I'm just loading my paintbrush here. It has a little bit of water in it with some of that color directly from that mat, and I'm kind of painting it along the arches of this rainbow here. Now I'm kind of going for an ombre look, so I'm going for a more concentrated look over on that left-hand edge and kind of fading it out as I get to the other side of my rainbow there. So I'm not really picking up more color as I go throughout this rainbow. I'm letting it kind of fade out and adding more water in as I go. Now, you did see me pick up a little more color. If I need to do that, I did go back onto that darkest portion first. I didn't go into the lighter portion to start that stroke again because that's going to deepen that area and I really want it to kind of fade off. And here's a look at those completed rainbows once I have that distress ink painted on there. So I'm going to add some clouds to these rainbows here, and I thought these little mini white pom-poms were a fun way to kind of do that. I'm going to do some various different types of embellishments on all of these mini cards. I just wanted to give you a variety of ideas for things you could do to embellish these or decorate these a little bit differently. So I'm just adding these little mini pom-poms on with some multi-medium matte Ranger adhesive. I'm going to place them into the adhesive and put a clear block over them to hold them in place as they dry. Now for this next card, I have a card front here, and I am stamping this rainbow just in its normal arch pattern with some Hero Arts Intense Black ink. And I went ahead and heat set that. I'm going to do some Copic coloring. And I'm kind of once again doing that kind of ombre fade out look. So I'm starting with a dark red marker, going into a medium and then to a very light red marker. And I'm doing this with all the colors throughout the rainbow. And I will have all the colors that I used in these projects linked over in the coordinating blog post, so be sure to check that out if you're interested to see exactly what colors I used. Now here, the purple I started with was too dark, so I came in with a colorless blender and I faded that out, and I just used a medium color into a light color, and then to fade it off, I scribbled some of my lightest color onto an acrylic block, picked it up with my colorless blender, and then kind of colored that onto my card front, and that gave me that ombre fade out without going too dark with my purple. So for this next card, I thought it would be fun to kind of create like a geode type pattern. So I've once again stretched out my rainbow a little bit. There you can see it's kind of stretched out on my block. And I'm going to stamp this kind of nestled within itself a few times into this corner here. And my stamp is a little stained, so I can see where I'm stamping, which is kind of an advantage of having that staining. My Versamark pad isn't in great shape anyway, so I wasn't really worried about staining my Versamark pad. So I'm just stamping that, like I said, nestled into itself a few times, and then I'm going to add some gold embossing powder. And you're going to see I kind of have that geode effect, which is really in right now. I'm going to heat emboss that, and then once again, I'm going to use the same exact Distress ink colors that I used before, and I'm going to watercolor those over the top. Now, I'm not using watercolor paper here, so I'm trying to use as little water as possible to add these colors, because this linen cardstock adds a lot of texture, but it's not super great for watercoloring. So just be careful that you're not adding too much water when you're watercoloring over this. And I did allow those colors to kind of overlap and kind of blend into each other. Now for this card, I thought it would be fun to just stamp the rainbow and not have any color in it. So I'm stamping it in some VersaFine Onyx Black Pigment ink, and I'm adding some black sparkle embossing powder over the top. That's going to give me a black sparkly rainbow, and I'm going to add my sentiment with some color. So that's going to be the only source of color for that card project on this particular rainbow. Now, because I'm creating several cards, I thought I'd go ahead and stamp several sentiments all at once. I'm prepping the surface of my black cardstock with my powder tool. I'm inking up all of these sentiments in some Versamark ink, and I'm going to stamp them all at once onto this Essentials by Ellen ebony cardstock. I love this black cardstock. It is super smooth and the perfect weight. And then I'm going to cover all of these with some white embossing powder and heat set that. That just allowed me to create a bunch of sentiments all at once. And then I'm going to take them over to my trimmer and just trim them down into little strips, and I'll have a bunch of sentiments ready to go for my card set here. Now for my colorful sentiment, I'm going to take this sentiment here. It's kind of a stacked sentiment, and I'm stamping it onto some Nina Solar white cardstock using my Hero Arts Intense black ink, and I'm just heat setting that so that when I go over it with the Copic marker, it doesn't bleed. Then I'm going to use the same Copic markers that I used before. I think I used the medium tones for this, and you can see I'm kind of masking off the words below using a scrap piece of cardstock. So I started with my pink, I'm going to move to my orange, and then to my yellow, my green, and my blue. And I'm just coloring over those words, and I'm just kind of flicking that color on there. I'm not being super careful because I have that piece of cardstock over the word that's below it, so I don't get any ink on that. So each of these words is going to be a different color. I'm going to take this over to my trimmer, and I'm going to trim around the edges. And I'm actually just going to cut the words apart using my scissors. So I have all of these different words that make up my sentiment. They're all in different colors, and I can just mount them onto those rainbows that have no colors, and that's going to add my pop of rainbow color onto those particular card projects. And I did add those on with a little bit of foam adhesive. So now that I have all of my elements ready to go, I'm going to start adhering my card projects. I have some kind of pool colored cardstock. I cut it at an angle so that it's going to go on that lower right hand corner of my card base. And I'm just going to adhere that there. And I'm going to adhere the card front over the top of this using some foam adhesive to add a little bit of dimension. And you can see I've added my sentiment, my white heat embossed sentiment over the top there using some foam adhesive. And I finished that card off with a little bit of twine as well. Now the other piece of this pool colored cardstock I have, and I'm going to stamp it using the little heart sprinkle stamp that comes in this stamp set. So I've just done a little tone-on-tone stamping to add a little bit of texture to that cardstock. I'm going to add it to my card base just like I did before, and I'll add the card front once again with a little bit of foam adhesive. And I did finish this off with a few iridescent hearts from HAI and a couple of sequins as well, just to add a little bit of sparkle to this. And I'm using my Marvy Yukaita jewel picker to place these onto the adhesive. Now for this card project, I thought it would be fun to kind of have that angle going on, but I'm going to just heat emboss these stars onto my card base. So what I've done is stamped a few. I've added my gilded embossing powder so I could see where I've stamped. And then I'm stamping more stars around that. And what I'll do is just add my embossing powder and I'll heat set all of these stars all at once so that I have kind of this angled pattern along the card base with these gold stars. And to add that little bit of blue in like I have in my other card projects, I'm going to just ink blend a little bit of Altenew Mountain Mist ink over the top. Now all of my card bases are made from that Essentials by Ellen linen ink, and it's not super great for blending, so you want to make sure if you're going to blend on this type of cardstock to go in with a really, really, really light hand. And that'll give you some better results. And once again, I just mounted that over the top using some foam adhesive, and I'm adding some of these Nuvo cloud confetti. They're like crystal clear cloud confetti. I don't know. There's a bunch of different words. I'll have them linked in the description below, but they're kind of like these flat iridescent sequins. They're really beautiful, and I'm adding that to the card project. Now this is one of the Copic colored images, and I thought it would be fun to add some gold embossed stars kind of trickling down the rainbow kind of in an angle there. So I've just stamped those. I've heat embossed them, and I didn't do anything really different on that card, so I just kind of adhered it all together. I have my little pom-pom clouds there to finish it off, and that really fun, bold, over it sentiment, which I think is so much fun. So that completes my set of mini cards today, a variety of different ways to use these fun stamps created by Julie Ebersole that you can have for free with purchase. As I mentioned before, all the products used in these projects will be listed and linked over at the coordinating blog post, so be sure to check that out. And I just think this stamp set is so much fun. I can't wait to see all the different ways that you guys use this stamp set. And if you have any ideas about how you would use this stamp set, leave them in the comments below because I can't wait to hear. As always, thanks for stopping by today. Thanks for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed these projects. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you won't miss any of our card making and paper crafting video tutorials. I'm so glad you hung out with me today, and I hope you've enjoyed this look at the brand new Over It stamp set. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the very end. If you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, go ahead and hit that button on the left-hand side of the screen. And here's a couple more video tutorials I thought you might enjoy.